Hi, Josh Zaring, Zaring Studios. Today I'm going to show you how to fix a handheld panorama with 21 images. You can do this with less, you can do it with more. Sometimes you'll find yourself out and about with a camera and no tripod, like I usually do. And you really want to get that pano, you want to get a nice wide shot, so you just do it anyway, handheld, and sometimes it works out. This one in particular, I basically balanced on a 6 foot tall fallen like rotten tree stump, and so I'm focusing on focusing and focusing on not slipping and falling. So some of the shots were kind of more like at an angle. So I'm going to be pulling this into PTGui, and you can check that out at ptgui.com, ptgui.com. It's one of the best stitching softwares for panoramas that I've found. I normally heavily lean on Photoshop and Lightroom for everything, and there's some things that PTGui just does a little bit better, and you'll find me dragging it in Photoshop anyway for the finishing touches. But I'm going to stitch it in PTGui and fix it with the warp in Photoshop and do just a couple extra finishing touches. Gonna open up my newly pro licensed, sent to me for free, PTGui. I just felt the need to say that. I made a 360-degree pano tutorial, and the makers of PTGui really liked it and sent me a pro license. I was using the trial, and I was gonna purchase it anyway, but that's much, much better. It's over, I think it's like $160. So that's a $160 gift. That's really nice. I'd just like to mention that. So I'm going to load my images. I have 21 images. And basically what I'm saying here in this tutorial is it's handheld and they are crooked. And I know it's not going to be pretty to begin with. So here we go. And just a little behind the scenes here. I did already process these in Lightroom to get the color I wanted, and mainly since they're shot at 24mm, I wanted to do the lens distortion correction. It makes it a little bit easier when you combine all these images. So now I'm going to click Align Images, and it's going to do its math. So there we go. Not pretty, but absolutely not the worst thing I've seen. And I see a little cut there, but we're gonna ignore that for now because I can see that that's what I did here was I locked focus in this area right here so that that building would be blurred out. Hindsight, maybe I probably shouldn't have done that, but the rest of the image I focused all along here on this tree, all along here on the creek, and all the way through here, back through here, so I could have it all basically in focus except for this area right here. So again, this just doesn't look the greatest. And you can see normally PTGui and Photoshop will straighten out your lines here pretty well. There's not a distinct horizon here, so that's what I'm going to be doing next in Photoshop. So we're pretty much done in PTGui. I'm going to create the panorama and put it in TIFF format. When I exported from Lightroom, that's what format I always export to unless the images are completely done. And this is basically my workflow for all panoramas. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Warp. Some of you may have used this maybe for this purpose or just to mess around with a photo and distort it intentionally. It can be a lot of fun. This I'm using to correct, and I'm going to drag my 4 corners as soon as it catches up here. I'm going to drag my 4 corners out to the edge, because if I use the tripod, this is basically what it would have looked like. Now I'm going to drag whatever's showing transparent, just going to stretch my image out until it fits. And I see my angles here a little weird. That's going to happen. I'm going to try and straighten out a little bit, trying to straighten out the horizon that I see. And I'm really trying hard to not get rid of this area here. So I'm going to pull that down a little bit. When you're doing this, if you really don't want to lose something, you can just do your best to clone stamp it in. And that's probably what I'm going to do with this, because I'm happy with where it is. I'm just going to fill in the missing gaps here up on top and on the left side. But first, I'm going to crop this unconstrained, because I actually have a focal point here in mind, and that pretty much involves these two trees, these two dead trees, being, you know, pretty much close to the same distance from the edge of the photo, from left to right. So since at the top it's a little, you know, there are different size trees, I'm going to go more down along here and just eye it up here. And that actually, now I only have to clone stamp one spot here, and that should be fairly straightforward. Just grab your clone tool, not too large, and you just want to carefully get that back in there, just paint that back in there. And I'm going to take from here, pull it up. Okay, that's fairly decent there. I'm going to save, because you always have to remember to constantly save just in case. And this image, ordinarily, if I didn't have to cut so much off, this would be an enormous image. The image size is 14,435 by 8815. Not bad. It's actually great for a print. Now, there's an area here, there's a few areas where my focus technique didn't really pan out, because I didn't get one in focus right here. I got part of it in focus, and the other picture that overlays it is, you know, kind of so-so. So I'm going to try to patch tool this here, these trees. I'm going to make an effort to do that. And just get basically, just fill in where it needs filled in. Just using a patch tool, that's it. Handheld isn't always the best way to go. Sometimes it works out awesome, and sometimes it's just a nightmare. This I wouldn't classify as a nightmare. It just takes a little bit extra work. Okay, I'm going to have to paint this one in. And what I do here is I take a polygonal lasso, select, basically kind of outline where the tree should be. And sometimes painting it in manually is just the best way to go. So I'm going to get the clone stamp and steal from this tree over here. Alt-click and just basically paint the tree trunk in. A lot of people won't even notice this. That's not the point here. The point is getting it to look better. And sometimes that requires a little bit of elbow grease. I'm actually not even using my tablet, and I probably should be using my tablet. But from using a laptop so often to edit photos, and sometimes like really get into multiple layers of Photoshop and be painting basically with the trackpad, I'm used to using my trackball, although I do prefer a trackpad and a trackball to like a regular mouse. I also love using my Wacom. But I've come this far so far, so I'm not even going to bother. You just want to draw that tree in. Just fill in what you can. And basically this is the whole point of the tutorial. Not necessarily saving the image, more so artistically editing the image, because it doesn't always pan out that great when you shoot a multiple image panorama, any kind of, when you're shooting handheld, especially since I basically had to balance on a 6-foot stump that was probably maybe 2 feet wide and rotten. So I'm standing there thinking, wow, this looks really cool. how can I not do this? And honestly, the panorama, I don't know how it would have benefited very well from a tripod, because I don't think I could sit my tripod up there. At least from where I was standing, I don't think it would have worked. So I did a little touch up here and there. And what I'm going to do now is just do a small vignette, but manually. And I'm going to paint that in with black at 50% opacity. And let me get my size here. I don't want it too dark. I want it to be more realistic. You can see where the sun's coming from, so you don't want to darken those areas. But I kind of want to just bring in the center a little bit more, draw a little more attention to that. And I'm just going to do the soft light. And you can see all I did was just darken it slightly. Normally I'd back off of that, but since it did darken it too much, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to Shift Control E, combine that. And now I'm going to make a copy of this. Deselect my first layer, go into Filter, Topaz Adjust, and I'm just going to basically hit my clarity preset. You can see how that really brings out the white highlights in the water, and that's pretty much what I'm going for. Not so much in the trees. They already have plenty of detail. I just want to bring it out in the water. So that's why I created a separate layer. I can just erase this away. Okay, now that we have this layer, I'm going to leave the original layer deselected. Grab my eraser tool. I don't really need to create a mask for this because this is just a quick erasing. Just kind of erase around here. And I don't want to draw too much attention to the side, so I'm not going to use the clarity there. I'm just going to use it in this area here. So the edges of the trees here, I do want a little more clarity out of, and definitely the water. So now you can see that's before and that's after. Just a little bit extra, just a little bit of boost. Shift Control E, combine that. There it is. I'm pretty happy with that. I see something I could patch tool out there. I don't know how that ended up there. It could have actually fallen from a tree. So get rid of that. And there we go. So that's basically how, when I'm out and about and I don't have a tripod, but I really, really want to do a pano, I want to get that wide angle view, this is what you do. If you're on good solid ground, you can get a little bit better on the straightening by holding your camera real still as you pan while you're taking your photos. I've done it many, many times, and after seeing how this was going to turn out, I felt the need to do a tutorial on how I'm going to fix this and make it actually look decent. So basically what you do after combining is use the warp tool and straighten everything out the best you can, get your horizon straight, and there you go. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that helped you out a little bit with your methods. I usually have a tried and true workflow I start with Lightroom and with Photoshop, and usually somewhere in there is Topaz Adjust. I just like it to add that little bit of edge. There's a lot more that you can do with it, but that's my main goal with it. Just adding a little bit extra clarity that wasn't there before, just bringing that out. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions for future tutorials, I would love to have your insight on that. Please subscribe and tell your friends. Keep creating and keep it awesome.